Hello, World Civilization 106. Welcome to week 6. And before I um, say anything else, I just want to mention that, and I'm saying this to all my classes, I realize that this um, currently the virus is a distraction. Let's be real. I remember going to MJC as a student to math and finding out about the 9/11 attacks. And from then on, the entire semester was difficult to concentrate on things like math when I was seeing not just that, but the way people were reacting and feeling very uncomfortable with some of the reactions to it. And then also the talk of war, which all of that was just very intense and a big challenge to focus on school. For me, as your professor, I have to say that I'm seeing everything shut down and not super clear messages from our leadership until just today, really, or at least finally. It looks like our leadership is taking this serious now. And I think it's fair to say it in that way. I mean, look, we had one politician that actually mocked this whole thing not long ago, wearing a big mask at the, going to the Congress as if it was a joke. And now that person is in self-imposed quarantine. Tom Hanks has corona virus. It's serious. I mean, many people have died, and Italy is on complete shutdown, and we may see something like that here. The important part is what I want us to really think about, regardless of what happens, is to remember our humanity. Look what we've gone through in history. We had the Spanish influenza, as it was called here, which was a big deal. Europe had to deal with the bubonic plague. So far, it's nothing like that. But I do think that as Americans, I'm going to be really blunt now because I'm a little, we act as if everything that happens here is what makes things a big deal. We don't care what happens to China or other countries. We don't. As a general rule, that's not the sentiment that we seem to hear, right? And then when it happens to us, it feels like the end of the world. I remember when 9/11 happened, a U.S. politician said this is the worst thing that's happened in human history. And as much as I was upset and felt it as an American, what happened, I knew even then, before I was a history professor, that that was a grotesque statement. If you're going to look at the history of the world and say that that's the worst thing, it's something that, it's a problem that we are in our own bubble. People die all the time from conflicts and wars. We sell weapons to so many countries fighting wars right now. But then when we have something happen here, then we think that the end of the world's coming, and we invoke our religion as if Armageddon and we're going to have the second coming happen because it happened to us. Now, it might, I don't want to be inappropriate as your professor to kind of say things like that, but really though, I think that we need to put this in perspective. There is a Christian poet that said something to the effect of, "No man is an island but a piece of the continent." It's beautiful. I would say, no human is an island but a piece of the continent. We can't think of the world as if we're living on different planets. We are living on the same planet. And we cannot act as if what's happening to other places doesn't have some sort of relationship with what happens to us. So I'm hoping that we will allow for this crisis to help us make a better kind of motivation to take care of each other and expand what we think it means to talk about each other. I mean, It was Jesus. The Good Samaritan story, what's interesting about that is in that parable, is that the Jews and Samaritans were at conflict with each other, almost in the way that Palestinians and Israelis are in conflict. And when Jesus tells the story, what it is that he has a fellow Jewish scholar, basically say, who's your neighbor? Because it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus mentions that there's a Jewish man who's been robbed, and he's dying. He's in a very bad situation on the side of the road, knocked out, maybe even. And a fellow Jew ignores him. Even somebody from the clergy sees this man that's hurt and walks away. And then the Samaritan, a person who's seen as the enemy of this community, is the one that takes care of the man that's hurt on the side of the road. And he takes him to an inn and takes care of him and makes sure that he has a safe place to stay and to heal. So then Jesus says, who was the good neighbor? And that was a very powerful, powerful parable, because there was a biblical idea about loving your neighbor as yourself being seen as a part of your immediate community. And he broke from that. He takes a controversial conflict and he makes the person on the outside the one that actually takes care of somebody. And if that illustration means anything, the idea of the Good Samaritan, it means that we have to stop thinking so limited in what we think is going to be the best way to take care of fellow human beings. Okay? That's all I have to say about that. So let's just talk a little bit about what we're dealing with this week. We're dealing with Greece and Rome. At least we got this interesting section here. But I want to say something about the exam first. Most of you did very well. But look, I have said that all papers need works cited and dates. I'm seeing dates on almost all of them. I'm not seeing works cited. Works cited, if you don't have works cited, you get a 0. So guess what, folks? If I didn't grade your paper yet and you don't have works cited, fix it now. And then I will grade it. Okay? Right? Please. This is ridiculous that I have to mention this again. All papers from now on will always need works cited. And I gave the example already for you to look at in an announcement. Okay? So that's it. So, much love. Follow your professor's instructions. Okay? Please. Now, moving forward here, I think that you are going to really enjoy this section. I'm putting a documentary clip underneath about something you may have never been aware of, that there's people who are actually still worshiping Greek gods, but that's kind of a newer thing in Greece itself. And soon we're going to be covering Christianity and Islam. And I think by the time we get to those sections, you're really, 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 really going to enjoy what you're learning, because you're getting this. It's much more closer to what many of you have been exposed to already. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that for now. I always want to encourage you to text me or call me. Remember that I'm working a lot. I may not be working at my other job as much soon, depending on the situation with this coronavirus. But I do want any of you to contact me if you have any problems with anything, questions or concerns. I do want to be here to help. And if I do end up working less at my other job, I'll be even more available for all of you, okay? So have a blessed evening and week. We'll be in touch.